let me wind my alarm.
Wind it.
Winding that alarm. Winding it.
No use if it's not wound.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Gonna put this back over here, gonna set that alarm. Goes for a while. Still going. Still going. Hey guys, it's Cam from Craft and Tailored, and in this week's episode of What Is on My Wrist, we are talking about a Jaeger-Le-Coultre Polaris II. It is in the Memovox line, and this is an E870. This one has received the nickname the Cranberry, as it has a red coloration, really awesome diver's alarm, and really excited to share this one with you because it's not often that we see the cranberry versions of these, and it's a diver's alarm, and it's really, really awesome, and it's a Jaeger-Le-Coultre, and it's a Memovox, and I could wax on about that for hours. But let's get into the details. Let's talk about why I like this watch, and also why it is worthy of some time on the wrist. So the Memovox is one of Jaeger-Le-Coultre's most iconic and well-performing line of wristwatches. And even though the Memovox wasn't the first alarm watch ever created, JLC is definitely the brand that marketed its alarm function, I would say, the best. The Memovox alarm went on to inspire some of Jaeger-Le-Coultre's most interesting timepieces, including the deep sea alarm. We actually did a video on Jaeger-Le-Coultre DSA. I'll provide a link in the description below so that you can check that out. And the original Polaris and countless other dress models, which also featured an alarm function. The original Jaeger-Le-Coultre Polaris debuted in 1968, but only lasted until about 1969 as the Quartz Crisis started to gain traction. And the Polaris is one of the most sought after vintage JLCs for collectors because of it being an alarm, but also it being a unique design that, in my opinion, that kind of incorporates the tool watch functionality of like a dive watch with an alarm complication. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Jaeger-Le-Coultre's deep sea alarm has generated a cult-like following and has also received a very iconic-like status among the watch collectors out there. So in any case, really, really cool watch. They're becoming very collectible, and this is an incredible example that remains unpolished with its original bracelet. And to top that all off, it's in this kind of iconic and stunning red coloration, which is very seldom seen. So really, really interesting watch. So watch is really, really awesome. It is an alarm. It uses a JLC self-winding caliber 916 movement, which is really, really rad. Essentially, the watch kind of has this, I would say, kind of cushion case shape. The other cool thing too about the finishing details of the watch is that it has kind of this matted out bead blasted finish. So if we look at the case itself, we've got this kind of matted out finish. And most of the examples that you're gonna find in the vintage offering, most of them, like many vintage watches, have been polished over the years. This one in particular is definitely what we would consider more of a case study example as a result of it retaining kind of that matte or bead blasted original factory finish, which is really, really incredible and something that you don't see a lot in these watches because they've been polished over time. The other thing that's really cool is that it is on an NSA bracelet, which was a bracelet that JLC and Breitling and a lot of other watch manufacturers used back in the day, but it's a really interesting kind of rolled link design. The outside links have that kind of, you know, bead blasted finish with a polished center link, and the bracelets are really interesting. This rolled link design, I think, would be insanely expensive to make today, but back in the day, it offered kind of a flexibility, but also, you know, it's really comfortable when it's on wrist. A little bit cumbersome to put on because the watch essentially just or the bracelet rather just opens up in the back, and it has kind of this interesting like clasp neck mechanism. So I normally put it on like on the side of my leg, and it's got like this kind of like hook type clasp system. But when it's on the wrist, it's really, really comfortable. It's kind of slinky. It molds to the wrist really nicely. I think if, again, this was being used for its intended purpose, which was, you know, skin diving, scuba diving, really nice while on the wrist. And these NSA bracelets also have something that's interesting, and I'll kind of show you here. they have kind of like this like built-in, almost like stretch version, but basically like there's this hidden like clasp that's spring-loaded that offers like some flexibility. So when the bracelet is properly fitted to the wrist, as you move your wrist, or if you wanted to slide it over, let's say like a wetsuit or something, that mechanism is in there that allows for some expansion within the bracelet. So really, really cool example. The thing that's kind of interesting about the watch itself is that you have this really, really interesting case design. So if you look at the side of the case measures, I believe, what is this? Let me look at my notes here, but it's 43 millimeters in diameter and it's 16 millimeters thick. So it's not the skinniest watch. What's interesting is even though the watch is 43 millimeters in width, it doesn't really wear like a 43. I would say it wears kind of similar to like a 40 because the case is this cushion case, which offers, I think some flexibility while it's being worn. It's not like a brick of 43 millimeters. It's kind of this tonneau or cushion cut case, so wears kind of nice. It does stick up off the wrist quite a bit. It is a sports watch, and so it kind of, you know, sits up high off of the wrist. But the case design itself is really, really interesting. It's got, you know, two crowns essentially, one that's located at the 2 o'clock position on the case, and then one that is located ultimately at the 4 o'clock position. This top crown, and both of the crowns are signed with the Jaeger-Le Coultre logo. The top crown basically operates this inner rotating disc. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that. We'll provide a close-up, but essentially this Memovox GT inner rotating disc rotates, and that's how you set basically the alarm, right? Really, really loud alarm, and especially when it's on the wrist, you can feel it on the wrist. One thing that's kind of interesting too about the design of this is you have this, I don't know what you even call this, I guess like almost like a resonator, but you have like this design that was ultimately created by Jaeger-Le Coultre to help the noise and also the vibration penetrate the case itself. So really kind of interesting case back design as well. But going back to the crown, the top crown basically sets the alarm, and it also winds the crown. So you basically wind the spring in the alarm, okay? And then when you set the alarm, as the time elapses and as you get to your designated set point, when the crown is pushed in on the top, oh, okay. You guys probably can't hear me because it's pretty loud. But when, you know, the hour hand moves into this set alarm position, it will obviously go off, and you can basically start and stop the alarm by pulling the crown in or out, which is again located at the 2 o'clock position. The secondary crown here operates basically winding the watch as well as setting the time. This is a complication. The 916 movement does have a date complication, which is located at the 3 o'clock, and you know, there is no quick set date on this complication. So it is a 24-hour rotator around, you know what I'm saying? But really, really eye-catching watch. And I think that was Jaeger's kind of design inspiration behind this, was to provide something in color that would be distinguishable under different lighting conditions. They make the GT Polaris II, reference E870, in a gray color. You commonly see them in blue, but they also made them in this like really cool kind of like oxblood, cranberry, almost kind of like purpley maroon color, which is really, really eye-catching. The other thing that's really a neat and interesting feature is you have like this kind of thin, fully gradiated acrylic rotating, you know, bezel. It is a bi-directional bezel, but there is kind of like a click spring in the bezel, which is really, really interesting. And then you also have a mineral glass crystal, which basically, you know, is affixed by this outer like locking nut. So you see that in some of the later Zodiac Seawolf designs, but it really creates kind of a depth and dimension to the dial as you have this inner rotating kind of a, I guess, brushed, you know, in this case, kind of gold look, but it's taken on this like kind of charming gold patina, but there was like a silver inner rotating disc paired with like this outer dial for telling the time, and then you have like this white minute track that kind of gives you some depth as it sits above the hands and the dial. So So we'll provide some close-ups so you guys can kind of see that. But really, really interesting watch. Jaeger-Le Coultre is a brand that I'm definitely starting to pay more and more attention to. Obviously, you know, Jaeger-Le Coultre is responsible for the Memovoxes like this and the Reversos, and they have some other iconic designs, but I think that within like the late 1960s and into the 1970s, they're kind of move into the sport watch range with some of their different chronographs, and watches like this makes them very interesting. And I think it's a watch that is definitely kind of more on the radar, so to speak, and a watch that is being, you know, sought after by the collector. So really, really nice example of this watch. Was really excited to share this with you. We haven't done a lot of alarms on you know, the channel. We did do that deep sea alarm, which I'll provide a link for below or above so that you can check that out. But these are really, really interesting watches, and I think that there's a lot of design elements that make these unique and ultimately worth collecting. So this one at the time of recording is for sale. I'll provide a link in the description below so you can check that out. But was excited to share this with you guys, and honored to have this one, especially one that is in this condition within our extended collection. So thanks as always, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you are not doing so already, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Craft and Tailored. If you've got watch questions, we are definitely here and happy to help. Drop us a line at info@craftandtailored. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will see you in the next one.